So in today's topic discussion, I'm gonna go over how to communicate with your realtor. Now, as a realtor myself, this is kind of close to my heart because I feel the way that you communicate with your realtor is really going to, lay the foundation of how this deal is going to go. Whether you're a buyer and you're looking for a property, whether you're a seller, you're looking to get the most for your money, or whether you're an investor and you're actually looking to get into like a cash flowing, high performing property. The way you communicate with your realtor is really going to set the stage for how you go about getting into a property there. So it's going to be super important there. And I just wanted to kind of bring this up and give you guys a few tips on what I'm seeing and what I'm seeing from other members, other people in the industry as well. The first thing you want to do is set up your communication early and upfront. Now, what this means is when you meet a realtor, so let's say you DM me and we're like, hey, Isaiah, I'm down to work with you. I think this is going to be exciting. So before we get all willy-nilly, start searching for properties, putting your property up on MLS or running the numbers, it's super important to take a second and decide how you're going to communicate. Like, there's so many ways to communicate now. You can text, email, WhatsApp, iMessage, these weird realtor portals. You can probably get ChatGPT to do something as well. So many different ways. And if you don't set your expectations or your realtor doesn't set those expectations, you can kind of lose momentum in your transaction. It's just not a way to do something effective. So what I would say as a client or a realtor, just take a second and, put it up front. For me, my main communication is Instagram. I love using Instagram. There's a lot of tools there where I can communicate, I can organize my conversations, and I can give my clients the best service possible. But hey, that might not work for every single realtor, or that might not work for you as a client. Maybe you're a texter, maybe you're an emailer, or maybe you're from like the 1940s and I need to write you a handwritten letter so that you can get it across. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. Make sure that you set up your communication in a way that's going to work for you and your realtor, and that you're able to actually go forward and actually transact on whatever you're trying to do. Now, the second thing here in terms of communication is your response time. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm kind of impatient, and if anyone knows me in my personal life, I want things done like that. When I call you, better pick up and get that thing done. But in business, it doesn't always work like that. You got to understand, realtors have other things to do, and clients aren't also at their phone 100% of the time. So I think establishing like a good response time that works for both your client and your realtor makes sense so that you guys can go forward positively and get to those end transactions that you're looking for. So for me, I always say I'm going to respond within 4 hours. That's a timeline that I can hold, and that if I have a client or I'm working with an investor or even another realtor, they know that I'm not blowing them off, I'm not being lazy, but my response time is 4 hours. So anything over 4 hours, yes, you can get mad, you can have an attitude. But if I'm within that 4 hour time frame, like, you just got to be patient and know that I'm working on your deal, or I'm working with that information to get you the best service possible. Now, I will put an asterisk there. If we're in the middle of a deal and we're negotiating, obviously it's not going to be 4 hours. We're going to get that done. But again, just setting those response times, setting those expectations so your client knows how you're going to respond, whether it's like, you're in an offer scenario or you're just looking at a couple properties on MLS. This is also going to, put everyone in a positive situation. If I know it's going to take you some time to respond, I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to be stressed. But if I have no idea when you're going to respond, 2 hours feels like, 2 days to me. And I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, is my realtor focused on me or is he doing other things else? But if you knew in the back of your head, like, oh, Isaiah takes 4 hours to respond to people, you'd be in a much better situation and, be much less stressed, and the transaction would go smoothly there. Now, another thing you want to do when you're communicating with a realtor or your client, vice versa, you want to be prepared. Now, time is money in the game of business, and it doesn't change for realtors. You don't want to be wasting their time asking questions that you already have the answers to, or just talking to talk. I'm not saying the relationship shouldn't be personable or amicable, but if you have questions, take a second and see if you can find the answer before. But if you need a professional opinion or some actual information that the realtor needs, boom, by all means, give them a call to try to help. But if you're trying to look for like, oh, what's the postal code for this address, or, how many stories does this property have? That's probably in the listing. And again, the realtor would have no problem for it. But again, it just slows down your communication. So I always say, whether you're a client or you're a realtor, try to be prepared for the conversations you're having. It makes things go a whole lot more smooth, and it shows your competence. So it shows that you're at a level that people want to actually work with. And it's worked great for me, and I hope it works well for you and your clients as well. Now, before I just kind of wrap up this thing, I want to give you two examples. So let's say you have a millennial client over here, and you have, that guy who worked at GM his whole life in Oshawa over here. Now, this millennial client might be cool with Instagram. You can hit him in the DM. When they're done their message, you can like it and that's okay. But you need to understand that that's the communication style that they're okay with. And once you understand that, you set your boundaries and you set your expectations up front, that works for them. So that's kind of more of a new age, more technologically advanced kind of client. Now, if you're working with an older client, not a worse client, just an older client, they might not be so technologically inclined. They may not be on Instagram, may not be on Facebook. They might be literally pick up the phone if you want to talk to me. So if that's the case, you want to make sure you set those expectations with that client so that you can understand like, hey, I'm going to call you between these hours and these hours so that 1, they're available, 2, they're prepared, and 3, you're not wasting time playing phone tag there. So whatever your client is, whether you're a buyer, seller, investor, or a realtor in this situation, make sure you understand how to communicate well with your realtor or your client to make sure you get the best out of your transaction possible.